Hello everyone and welcome back to the Babbling Irons channel. Today we have an absolute delight in joining Stuart Slater. How are you, Stuart?
Very good, Frankie. Yourself?
Yes, all good, thanks. Good to have you on the channel. Appreciate your time as always. And I guess at the moment it's pretty good for West Ham. We've got a lot of good stuff to talk about. You know, the past two seasons we've had European football, and again we've got it this year, finishing 6th and 7th back to back. What have you made of the last 2 years in terms of, you know, we came out of lockdown, we all thought we needed to just survive, and then David Moyes has just completely turned it around in 2 seasons.
I think, yeah, I mean, obviously getting David Moyes back was a masterstroke. Yeah, before I start, Frank, it's great seeing you again. But obviously, I used to coach you. What a good player you were, buddy. So, yeah, and it's good. Yeah, going back to David Moyes, getting him back was a masterstroke. We tried the Pellegrini, obviously throwing a bit of money at the... And probably that wasn't the right thing to do. David Moyes has gone back to great recruitment, people that work for the jersey, work hard, good characters, got a sort of jigsaw together where obviously he's got this sort of basic 14, 15 players that he's got. He's not chucking around too much. And, you know, the players are playing week in, week out. So the last 2 years, it's been a buzz going to the stadium, whereas before, when the team weren't playing particularly well, it was a little bit of a toxic atmosphere because obviously everyone never wanted to leave Upton Park. But as you see on nights like that in the European ties the last couple of years, the atmosphere can get there, and we can generate that because the team are winning on the pitch, and that's the most important thing. People are happy with that. The West Ham fans are happy with that. If people are putting a shift in, and then we're winning with that, you know, they'll be happy.
Exactly. I mean, it's been such a contrast in 2 years. It's crazy. Like you mentioned, you know, it didn't really work under Pellegrini. We brought in Moyes the first time to keep us up, and then we've brought him in again, and it's just been an absolute revelation. But let's talk about your career at West Ham a bit. You know, going back to 1987, a few years now, Stuart.
Frankie.
Yeah. You know, you made your debut when you came on as a sub in that game against Derby for Ray Stewart. And can you just kind of sum up the feeling, you know, obviously being a West Ham fan and, you know, being involved in that environment? How was it, you know, coming on against Derby at Upton Park in front of those fans?
Yeah, Frankie, we go back a long way. That goes back a long way, 87. I was very fortunate. Ray Stewart took me under his wing. I mean, when I was a young lad, 13, 14 years of age, playing Sunday football, he would go up and watch me play up in Colchester, where I was playing, with a scout to make sure that the club got me. I mean, so he gave up his Sunday mornings. He was an international footballer, first team player, regular, and he would come up to watch me play on a Sunday morning to just make sure that other clubs wouldn't get me and West Ham would get me. And I owe Ray a great deal of gratitude for that. So I think when I was on the bench that time in 87, I think Ray Stewart deliberately did that, so I got my debut. Yeah. But Frankie, you know, I'm still a young boy there, 17, 18, I think 18. All the hard work, I'm still a young man at 18 years of age, but from when I was 3, 4 years of age, all I wanted to be was a professional footballer. And the sacrifice that I did, my family did, everybody did, I was just single-minded. I just wanted to be a footballer. And my mum and dad were very lucky that they just said, look, you know, don't be a naughty boy at school, but obviously if you've got homework to do and there's football, just do the football, which probably isn't the right thing to do. But yeah, all the sacrifices that you got, that was just the ladder. When you got on the bench and you got on there, you know, to play in front and get paid to play football in front of a crowd, who paid to come and watch you, was something special. But that was the only start. That was the start. You know, you work your hard, all the hours and all the flogging, all the running, all the work that you do behind the scenes up until 18, you know, that was the reward that you got.
Yeah, I mean, just touching on that, you know, football, you know, in this kind of modern era, the amount of work and dedication they put in and have to put in to make it as a professional footballer is scary. You know, I've heard people like Declan Rice coming through the academy talking about that. How do you think the youth system's changed in comparison to when you were playing, and in terms of now and what's demanded and how the kind of setup goes on, and, you know, just enlighten people a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, when I was coming through the ranks, obviously we were schoolboy forms. It was schoolboy forms. So really, you only played against the Tottenham, the Chelseas, the Arsenals in half terms. During the week, you might train once a week at the club. But because I lived a little bit far away, they just used to invite me down at in half terms, and then I'd play the teams in half terms. So you were able to play for your school team Saturday, your district, county Saturday afternoon, and then you still were able to play with your Sunday side, which I think, going back, is a great idea still. Because the academies, though it was good for me, it's not good for a lot of other, the majority of the other players. There's probably a handful that just make it through every age group, and that's only the first step. So now I've got a lot of my old teammates back at the academy. I've got Kevin Keane, I've got Potsy, got Robbo, I've got Kenny Brown there, and it's great that all the experiences that they've got, that they'll put in, they're all West Ham people. But there's so many staff there, the staff that they've got, you're talking, I don't know, I wouldn't like to guess, but where it was before, it was only Tony Carr, Ronnie Gale, Jimmy Frith, a couple of people stand, but they were all sort of part-time, these were, apart from Tony Carr, and he did it all on his own, Tony Carr did. So it's changed in that aspect. We got an opportunity when we were younger, because obviously West Ham at the time, we produced players and sold players on. Now we don't have to do that. We've got the money to go and buy 30, 40 million pound players. So the youngsters, if they're good enough, will come through, but I think they'll come through a lot longer, and they might have to go out on loan and maybe step down a couple of years and go that way. Whereas, if you were thrown in at the deep end when we were young, it was either sink or swim, and John Lowe was great. He weren't frightened of doing that, and the West Ham fans loved that. They loved the homegrown players coming through, and they gave you more of a time, more opportunities, and gave you a better platform.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you definitely made a success at West Ham. You went on to make over 179 appearances for the club, so you definitely did something right. I guess the one standout match that people will always refer to you as is that game against Everton in the FA Cup quarter-final back in '91. What was it like, not only to score in that match, but, be highlighted with such praise from everyone for that performance, and, get West Ham to a semi-final of an FA Cup, which, we've seen over the past 30, 40, 50 years, is something quite rare.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I've lived off that for a long time, that game, frankly. I mean, that was 91, so it's 31 years now. And still people, that went to that game and around that era that West Ham fans, they come up to me and just said, that was an unbelievable individual performance, one of the best individual performances they've ever seen. But it was just so highlighted. Everton were the top team. They were like the Man Cities and Liverpool of the day. They were winning trophies. They were winning leagues. They had a great manager, great team. We were in a league below. We were a bit of a yo-yo side at the time. So we're in the old Div 2, which is the championship now. And you know what it's like, Frankie. I think you were up to the park under the lights during the week. Special quarter-final. So it was the only game. So there was a game on Friday, there was a game on Saturday, and a game on Sunday, and one game on Monday. Quarter-finals, 4 quarter-finals over the weekend. And it was just the time that Sky were coming on the scene and all that. And so it was the only game that was live on Sky. And fortunately, I played really well. Everything that I did turned, I scored the winning goal. And I had a great performance. And the praise that I got after that game, after scoring the winning goal against the top team, against the top manager, came my way for a long period after that. And it was quite difficult to take all that adulation, because I thought, I'm just a normal player. I had a good game, but then to see your name in the back pages for the next couple of weeks, and every time that I did speak then, Frankie, while I was at West Ham and Celtic, a press guy would phone me up and it would be in the back pages or the inside the back pages of the press. So for a good 2, 3, 4 years, no training whatsoever. You've got to be, even then, possibly say the right things. Because obviously journalism, they do some good stuff, but there's some stuff that they print which is not so nice and could get you into trouble. But you don't have that training. But the actual night, that performance, you know, will stand with me for the rest of my life. And hopefully I've made a few memories for people that were there at the game.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic. I mean, I was unfortunately not old enough to see that performance, but I've seen the highlights.
No.
Yeah, it's just a bit before my time, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, speaking to West Ham fans just about you in general as a player, I've got, you know, the overall feeling, you know, it wasn't just that one game. You know, I think that's important to put out as well. It's not just you living off one game. You played 179 games for West Ham because you were a top player. There's no getting around that. I think that's important to mention as well, because, you know, as outstanding as that moment was for you, like you mentioned, it was different time because the media, you know, there was no social media. So, you know, Sky were just coming into the picture and you really got your name out there in that game. And it can be difficult because, like you mentioned, the press can be good and bad, and they decide what are going into those papers. So I guess for you, it was a great moment, and it's just important to kind of get to that other fact that, you know, it wasn't just that one game. You know, you put in some excellent performances for West Ham throughout your career there. So I guess having that special night at Upton Park kind of brings me on to the next question about Upton Park in general, because it's been 7 years now since we moved from Upton Park to the London Stadium, and we've definitely had some really good times at London Stadium. You know, last year beating the likes of Sevilla at home, you know, Liverpool, Chelsea. How special was Upton Park to you to play in, and how different do you think it is from the London Stadium we're currently playing in?
Yeah, a lot's been said about obviously leaving Upton Park the last 7-8 years. It was a special ground. It was a special atmosphere. You know, it's been often said that the Chicken Run, obviously they were. I mean, the whole ground was hardcore, but the Chicken Run was so close to the ground they could actually touch players. You know, and that the actual so close to the pitch created an atmosphere that I don't think many of us would ever experience like that, you know, for 38,000 supporters that could get in there, cram in there. And, you know, obviously that's what the beauty of West Ham fans, they soon, if you're winning, they're unbelievable. If you're not winning, but you put in a shift, they'll still back you. So you make a back, you know, playing with Julian Dix, making those tackles, and we might be struggling and all that, but they'll see that and they'll get up for that, and it gives you a little bit more of a buzz when things are not going well, but you're putting in effort. So they're very, very honest supporters. So just imagine getting 38,000 supporters in that tight, compact. I don't think there would be an atmosphere that we could sort of generate again, really. But having said that, 7 years leaving London Stadium, we're playing in Europe. You know, obviously, so we've grown. We've got 60,000. That was never going to be possible at Upton Park. Never, ever going to be possible. You know, even if they were able to do that stand, I think the was going to be 40 or 44. We've got an extra 20,000 supporters in there. So it's going to make the club grow. You know, and that's why we've started challenging 7th, 8th, 6th in Europe. And potentially, you know, getting those 66,000 supporters, it's going to make us grow even more, and hopefully we can break into that sort of top 6 on a regular basis. We've got the platform, we've got the stadium. Yes, it has shown on nights, albeit we have to win big games. There is an atmosphere. There is a good atmosphere at the ground, but it's a base where, hang on a minute, if you're doing well, 7 years gone down the line, we'll never forget Upton Park. It was a special stadium, special memory, special. But moving forward, the longer you're away from it, you know, it's a bit of a healer. And I enjoy going down to London Stadium. Probably I wouldn't have said that 4 years ago, frankly, you know, because things weren't going great. Obviously, the team weren't doing well. Everyone was still hanging over from Upton Park. But we've had a couple of good, successful seasons, and we're going in the right direction. We are bringing in players, albeit people saying, oh, he's not spending a lot of money, but we're spending 30-40 million on players. You know, I don't think that would have been able to happen if we were Upton Park. So yeah, fond memories. Upton Park, unbelievable stadium. Don't think we'll ever recreate that atmosphere because of the tight knit and 38,000 mad West Ham supporters in there that are fantastic. But it's getting there, the London Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we spoke a few years ago about the London Stadium. You know, it was a period where we were fighting relegation, and in the first few seasons we were there, and we actually kind of mentioned, you know, once the results actually start coming on the pitch, people will start talking less about the stadium in terms of how it is and comparing it to Upton Park. I think that's a great point because, you know, this past couple of seasons, yeah, we weren't there for the first season when there was lockdown and there were no fans in the ground. But, you know, last season, probably some of the best memories I've had as a West Ham fan, you know, in my 23 years, and playing against teams like Sevilla is, you know, still to me absolutely crazy that we've managed to do that and not only play them but beat them. And like you mentioned, you know, moving to the London Stadium, 60,000 fans, it is a chance to progress as a club. There's definitely things that could have been done better in the transition. But I think we're starting to see the benefits of the move as a whole in terms of the club. So, yeah, I guess with West Ham fans, they like a player who runs, they like a player who works hard, and that's all that people really can ask of you as a player. And that's probably why they really liked you as a player as well, because, you know, you put in that hard work and you showed it all on the pitch. And even players that aren't West Ham fans that come into the club become a West Ham fan. You know, you've seen even more recently Declan Rice. You know, it's clear that he was a Chelsea fan growing up, and, you know, he's come into that West Ham team and he absolutely loves it. You know, he's said that he loves the club. And I guess the question to you, Stuart, is what is it like to play, you know, and have that connection with West Ham fans? Because there'll be a lot of West Ham fans watching this and, you know, dreaming of playing for the club, but will never actually have that moment. But for you, you know, being a West Ham fan as well, you've had that connection. So what is that feeling like?
Yeah, Frankie, yeah. Obviously, going back there now as a supporter and ambassador. So I've been doing the ambassador role quite a while now. I kept me links with West Ham when I finished. Did the academy for 5 years, 6 years. You just can't get it out of your blood. Once you obviously grow up, support them, be a schoolboy, apprentice, play. Oh my goodness, you know, to put on that jersey. So I see now how all the other fans feel. I mean, I know I've experienced playing, but I feel the experience of the fans now because, God, yeah, I'd like to be out there. I'd like to be on that pitch now. Yeah. I'd love to be out there. But you do, I guess, Frank, you do take it for granted when you play that all that hard work, but you don't realise all the sacrifices that the fans make. You know, they work hard all weekend and they spend great money to go and support their club. And it's a community. It's an absolute community. You get on the trains, you get on the buses, you get down to the ground, you sit with the same sort of people, and it's a family, it's a community, and it's a special community, special. And having experienced the playing side, now I'm a fan, ambassador. I just realised how how privileged I was to wear the shirt and to grace the Upton Park surface, because there was many thousands and thousands of fans that would want to be in my place. And I feel like that now, though I've had mine and I am greedy. I'm like that. I'm like, geez, I would love to go and play. But, you know, it all moves on. And you can't get out of your blood now that, you know, you're a West Ham community fan for life, and it never leaves you. And, you know, these sort of few weeks in close season, you end up starting playing golf, but you can't wait for the season to start again, you know, to get down to the stadium and reconnect with other people that have got the similar interest to West Ham at heart. Yes, I can't wait again.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, I guess also it's not just West Ham that you played for. You know, you went to play for Celtic, Watford, Ipswich, you know, other clubs. Looking back on your playing career as a whole, you know, a lot of players will get this, you know, ex-players will get asked this. Do you have one moment in your whole playing career that stands out as kind of your biggest regret as a player in terms of, you know, your overall career? Or is there any one point, you know, whether that be, you know, moving on from West Ham or Celtic, or a moment in a match? Is there anything that stands out throughout that time?
Yeah, I mean, I know people always talk about don't look for regrets and don't look in the past and all that, but obviously because it was quite a high profile time for me. You look back and you go, what could you have done better? And you look at it and you analyse it and you have to move on. But I know for a fact that I play for a wonderful club at Celtic. Celtic are a massive club, and they've got, once again, great support, similar to West Ham, great support. But obviously, being on the coaching side now, albeit I'm doing the college program at Chelmsford College, but obviously 4 or 5 years at West Ham in the academy there, I tell youngsters now, follow your gut, follow what your instinct, you know, because you're the one that's got to do it. You're the one that's got to move. You're the one that's got to prove a hefty price tag. Yes, you could be in your comfort zone, i.e., I could have stayed at West Ham, but I wasn't ready to move to Celtic at that time. I just finished that season. We didn't have a great season. I was starting to get injured that season, and I wasn't ready for a move. So I should have signed a 4-year deal that was on the table for me, and had things gone a bit better with my agent at the time. It was Liam Brady, who I've got the utmost respect for. He then became the Celtic manager, and he couldn't look after me, so he put me onto his best mate, Fintan Jury. And you know, looking back at it now, there was only one way that it's a privilege for me that Liam Brady and Celtic wanted me that badly, because Liam Brady played with the best players in the world. He was a world-class player, and obviously playing with me for 3 years, and so that was a big thing for me. But I probably wasn't ready for the move at the time. As I said, I was injured the last sort of season. We got relegated, and I didn't play particularly well that season. But you know, I had Murray up in Scotland. My son came from Scotland, and I met him. So there were some good things, but I probably would have looked back and gone, right, done another couple of years, 2 or 3, and then reassessed again. You know, and I would have probably had 300 games under my belt then at West Ham. And, you know, then you start becoming, hang on a minute, you'd be in the top 30 appearances of all time sort of thing. So that becomes, hang on a minute, because it's a special club, West Ham. Not saying Celtic and Ipswich and all the other teams that are not, but my affinity for that club was just second to none. You know, I was settled and happy, and just the positional play. But I had Billy Bonds was my manager still at the time, and yeah, we've spoken a couple of times since, and you know, it was a bit disappointing the way we left, how I left, and but obviously utmost respect for Bill even now. But that would have been probably the only one that I look back on, Frankie. Don't try not to look at it because it's gone. But yeah, that possibly would be the one.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, you know, I think it's important. Things happen throughout your career, you know, for a reason. And at that point at the time, it was the best thing for you. So I don't think there's any regret there, because, you know, things happen in football. You know, I had the chance to play for Celtic, you know, like you mentioned, an absolutely huge club. So, yeah, I guess moving on to kind of the present time at the moment and how things are going for West Ham, you know, this summer already, we've made 2 really good signings. We've got Agard, the centre back, for about 30 million, and Areola as well on a permanent. So I guess, how are you feeling, you know, as a fan of West Ham, going forwards? Do you think that this past couple seasons where we finished 6th and 7th has been, do you think we can sustain this now? Or do you think this is the beginning of our transition to kind of compete regularly in that top 7? Or can you kind of see it maybe fizzling out, and there's other teams like Aston Villa, Leicester again next season that are going to start bouncing back, and it's going to be really tough to get in that top 7 again?
I think that's the standard. I think that would be the sort of criteria for the start of the season, being in that sort of top 6th, 7th again, really. I mean, realistically, anything above that's going to be a bonus. The squad's obviously changed a little bit. We lost a couple of players. No, Yarmolenko, you probably know more than me. I mean, so obviously we've got one addition in, really. Obviously, Areola was there before. So I'd like to see probably another 2 or 3 more additions coming in, because, you know what it's like, new people coming in with freshness. We've got a great nucleus of a squad still there, but like I said, we're relying on Antonio up top on his own a lot, and he, you know, regardless of what people say, I think he's done a fantastic job up there on his own. There's not many players that can play that style up there on his own, albeit we've got a link-up player there, but having played up front, right, you know, for the first couple hundred appearances, you know, it's very difficult on your own, and I was a slight one, but for a big man up there like that, he's got to hold on, bring players into the game, obviously wait for his support. So he did a fantastic job. But so I'd like to see possibly, but another addition or two up there. But that comes with big money now, Frankie. You know, as I said, it's big money, and you know, there's a lot of teams that can afford those sort of money. But at the minute, we've still got to think about it. We spent big money before, and it didn't get us nowhere. So it's got to be the right person, right character. With the work effort's got to be right, and you know, I'm sure that they're doing an amazing job anyway behind the scenes. I think Rob Newman's doing the scouting down there now, so I think him and David Moyes will be, yeah, they've got irons in the fire. So hopefully we can see some more additions in the next sort of couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think also it's important that we're actually keeping on to our better players. You know, Declan Rice again. A lot of rumours that he'd be leaving this summer. Jared Bowen's just had an excellent season, so we've definitely got the established players in the squad. It's like you mentioned, we need to make 2-3 more signings because we lost a lot last season. You know, Nobes went, Fredericks has gone, Yarmolenko, Alex Crow, who didn't really play. So we are thin, and we saw that last season, the Europa League. We were very thin, and that's probably what caught up to us in the end because we couldn't sustain what we were doing in the league. You know, we were battling for that top 4, at Christmas, and then it kind of deteriorated in the second half a bit because we just didn't have the squad to compete. But we've got some excellent players at the moment, and we've seen some excellent players over the past few years. So, one question for you, as a player, who is that one West Ham player in this current kind of generation that you would have wanted to play with when you were playing?
Well, I think obviously everyone would say about Declan Rice how I mean, that's easy, but I mean, obviously the emergence of Jared Bowen. I mean, for he has just taken Premiership football from Championship football to like, hang on a minute, why weren't anybody in the other takers there? Because he's just been a revelation, absolute revelation. He works hard, he's got ability, right foot, left foot. I mean, obviously more left foot, but he can score goals on his right side and go down that way. Puts a shift in, makes great diagonal runs, gets in behind, comes short, and puts a shift in. And he's got an end product. I mean, a small guy, got pace, have an end product, creating goals, scoring goals, being an absolute, no wonder Klopp wanted him last year, a couple of years ago, sort of thing, when he was emerging. But to sustain his performances since he's been at the club now has just been phenomenal. He has been probably a dream. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get if he doesn't perform well, which he has performed, you're going to get a shift, a real hard working shift. And I remember the time first season, he was sort of in and out. And Moyes was, every time there was a substitute, he might have come off. Excuse me. But yeah, you wouldn't want to take him off now, because he's, regardless if he's not playing particularly well with 65, so he's got an end product, he's got a goal in him, he's got assist in him, he's been an amazing signing addition.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, last season was just producing absolutely crazy numbers. He was the one that got us to where we were, not just in the Premier League, but in the Europa League as well. He was the one that scored against Lyon when we were down to 10 men. Then he scored in the away leg as well. So, he's been an absolutely brilliant player for us, and it's important that he maintains his form. Got that England call up as well, which is really good for him. So I guess, yeah, as an early kind of prediction for next season from you, Stuart, what can you kind of sense from West Ham in terms of how we're going to do in the Premier League, but also in the Europa Conference League?
Well, you'd like to think, as I said, with that benchmark of where we've been the last couple of years, that would be the sort of that would be a great achievement if we can do that again. I mean, obviously, unless a lot of boys are going to come through the door at the minute. Obviously, how many weeks are we away? 4 or 5 weeks away from the season again.
Yeah.
So these guys, if these targets that we're looking at now, if we can get a couple more in, 2 or 3 in, but I would imagine if you take 6th or 7th, you'll be happy again with what other clubs are doing business wise. Obviously the team down the road, they've got 5 or 6 different additions. They spent 50 or 60 million on one player at the minute. So you've got to be realistic sometimes and go, hang on a minute, with our spending power, we probably haven't got that spending power at the minute. to get 6th or 7th again would be a fantastic achievement. And that's what I think you would set the bar at. Obviously, if you're David Moyes and you with the group of lads, look, we've done this last couple of years with European football. You know, this should be the benchmark for next season. And if we get above that, happy days. If we can, you know, get there, then yeah, still a successful season. Anything below, then, you know, obviously it would have been possibly, but you just never know how the season might pan out, injuries, suspensions, things like that. So, whereas the Europa, I mean, well, obviously the conference, Europa conference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Conference. Don't know too much about that. Obviously, what we did last year in the Europa League, you know, you're in it to win it. So there's no point in obviously European. The higher up you go, the further up you go in the competition. You know, it's another trophy. And did Roma win that one last year? Did they? Was it? Jose?
Yes, they did. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I mean, look at Jose Mourinho. No one really knew too much about Roma up until the quarterfinals. Once they got to the quarterfinals, he's going to another European trophy he's won. So you've got to, you know, I'd like to think that we could get to that sort of stage again where we were. I mean, obviously, providing everything goes well with injuries and suspensions, and like you said earlier on, Frankie, that probably caught up last year with us because of this. The squad was so thin. So it depends on how we get on in the next sort of 4. When's the transfer window shut?
End of August.
End of August. So we've still got a bit of time, but depending on what we get in between that time, you know, will depend on how well we do in the league and in the conference. What we've got at the minute is good, but it's very thin, like you said.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just exciting to be talking about Europe, to be honest, because, you know, whenever we spoke about in the past year with West Ham, it's always been it's been a bit more. It's just been harder to talk about because we've been losing most weeks and fighting relegation, and that's what we kind of come accustomed to. But at the moment, we're just flying. You know, I think it's important to remember, you know, just 2 seasons ago, we were fighting relegation, and, you know, back-to-back top 7 finishes is incredible considering our squad and how big it is and the amount we've spent. So, yeah, I think to end on kind of a positive and kind of wrap up this interview, Stuart, throughout your whole playing career, not just at West Ham, but just, you know, throughout your entire career, how would you like to be remembered for your time as a player from fans, from pundits, from the media, from anyone watching you play?
Yeah, I would like to be very skillful, an entertainer that would obviously, and people understand that an average lifespan of professional football is only 6 years. I was fortunate enough to get through my youth, set up schoolboy youth, and play 179 games for West Ham before I started developing my injuries. Had I not had those 179 games before my injuries, I probably never had a career going to Celtic, Ipswich, Leicester, Watford. So I'd like to think that when I was fit, when I had, before my injuries, before obviously we say about the 6 years, people would have said, look, I was very skillful, I was, you know, entertainer. And had I continued doing that, then I would have, you know, possibly got international recognition. I got the B and 21s and all that. But had I stayed injury free, but my career sort of just went, people said, well, what happened after West Ham? And I just said, well, I had 5 operations after that. You don't hear that every year after West Ham. I missed 4 months of the season, 5 months of the season. Then you start missing your muscle wastage goes, your pace little goes, your confidence goes. You might beat a player, but you can't get away from him. So all those things go against you. So yeah, when I was fit for the first sort of 5 years of my career, a really skillful player, entertainer that sort of entertained the crowd and worked hard for the jersey. And then yeah, the way I left, why did it nosedive a little bit? Well, I had 5 operations and I only played probably about 150 games in about 8 years last, you know, and that's the frustration that you have but once again, grateful for having the career, because there was a lot of kids at young age that didn't play early doors, got injuries and never had a career. So fortunate that I hung in there for a little bit longer and was to sample more clubs and more experiences.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like you mentioned, even before those kind of injuries, you managed to play 179 games for West Ham. That is incredible. You know, not many people will be able to do that for the club that they love. And I think, yeah, what you basically said there was spot on. You know, being an entertainer on the pitch from clips that I've seen, that's definitely fits the description. So, yeah, really appreciate your time, Stuart. It's been a really good interview, and if you guys want to check out some more stuff in the future, we're gonna look to get some more ex-players on and stuff. And you know, it's just been really interesting getting your insight, not just on your playing career, but the current situation at West Ham as well. So yeah, really appreciate that, Stuart.
Pleasure,
and thank
Frankie.
you very much.
Always, mate. Pleasure. Great lad you are, buddy.
Okay, well, yeah, thanks, guys. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a like on this video if you did enjoy the interview, and we will see you next time.